Hey, Ben.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Doing great, brother. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Well, we're joined here today by several media from around the state. Excited to talk a little Spartan spring football. Started practice this morning, actually, bright and early. And we're here with head coach Mel Tucker to preview spring practice, take your questions. And we'll be joined following Coach Tucker by defensive end Drew Beasley and running back Connor Hayward. So at this time, Coach, if you just want to make some opening comments about what you're looking for out of the spring, your thoughts on the first practice, and then we'll open up the questions in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thank you all for coming. We had a good day today. It was a good start. I thought we put some money in the bank. In our out of season conditioning program, our Spartan training program, we had 8 weeks of running and lifting and drill work and walkthroughs and meetings. And I feel like our guys did a really good job. My hat goes off to Coach Novak and his staff in our weight room. I believe your team is built in the weight room, and they did a fantastic job. Our guys are all bought in what we're doing in the weight room, what we're doing in nutrition with Amber, and we were very prepared for spring practice today. And what we're looking for in the spring is to gain ground and get better. And that's really what it's all about. It's the third phase of our out of season, and it really sets the tone for our summer conditioning program, and then we'll roll that into fall camp. But our focus is on being best conditioned. These are the foundation of our program, and playing with great technique and fundamentals, playing smart, playing fast, playing physical. The job of a coach is to teach, motivate, and develop players, and so this is all part of that process. To gain ground, trust the process. Today was a day to do that. We have 15 practices. We're going Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday for 5 weeks, and we don't have 1 day to waste. And I felt like today we were very productive. It was very competitive. But it's really just one step in the process, a very important step. And I was, we're excited to be out there. Just to think that a year ago we didn't have this opportunity, it just really blows my mind. I think back, and that we didn't get a chance to do any of this, and so we're going to make the most of it. I was really pleased with what we did today. So it was bright and early. So I'll open up for questions.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start with Matt Charbonneau, the Detroit News.
Hey, Mel, good to see you. I'm going to touch on a little bit of what you said there. Does this considering the way last spring went and everything kind of going crazy there, does this feel almost like a fresh start? Like this is kind of a little bit like your first year, even though it's not really the case, but does it feel a little bit different like that?
It doesn't feel like my first year, certainly. It's really not a fresh start. It's just more of a normal out of season. That's what it feels like. There's been a lot of work, preparation that's gone into this program leading up to this point, including everything we did last season and then this off season. It's been a grind for the staff and for the players, and so again, it's part of the process, and so we embrace it. But I realize that I've been here over a year, and we got a lot of work to do.
And you mentioned at the end of the year, you guys are going to be active in the portal. You talked about it on signing day as well. You've got some early enrollees, guys on the way out, guys on the way in. How important has it been kind of getting all the new faces and everybody kind of used to where they're at, getting them on board and kind of getting them going in the system there?
It's very important. We're not here just to collect players. We're here to build a team. That's very important. Team chemistry is a big part of the game of football. I mean, it's the ultimate team sport. So not only do we need to acquire the players that can make us better and help us win, but we have to develop a team, and the unselfishness, the togetherness, the chemistry that it takes to have a winning football team. And so this is, any opportunity that we have to be together, whether it's in the weight room, in the meeting room, on the field, we have to take advantage of it. We have to connect, and so far so good.
Our next question is from Chris Solar, the Detroit Free Press.
Hey, Mel, good to see you. I guess for you, getting out on the field at this time of the year, what's the feeling like, and beyond just the long wait and the off season and all of that? I mean, this is usually when the building process does begin. I guess, how do you channel that to these guys in terms of getting the most out of them coming out of last year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's good to see you, Chris. It's how do you get the most out of your players? Like I said, I mean, that's our job as coaches, is to teach, motivate, and develop. And spring ball is important because you do actually get a chance to get out on the grass and coach and play the game of football. What can you take from the classroom, in the meeting room? What can you carry over onto the field, into the game of football? What can you carry? How does the weight room and the running and lifting, how does that translate into actual performance on the field? And so, that's what this is all about. This is a developmental time for us. I mean, it's scheme development, it's technique and fundamentals, it's team chemistry, everything that goes into to building a winning program and cementing a culture of accountability, attention to detail, sense of urgency, all those things. This is a great time to build upon everything that we've done up until this point. And so I was excited to get out on the field. There's nothing out there but green grass and opportunity.
As an aside to that, I mean, there's obviously been the roster shakeup with guys coming in. We noticed a couple of the bigger names that weren't coming back for this year, with Jordan Reed, Dotson, and Trey Person. I mean, they're the three guys that played a lot of football here. I guess, can you share some insight into the decisions that some of those guys made, and maybe some of the guys who did decide to come back, like Curry and Campbell, and trying to make that work here with all the nuances of COVID year?
I mean, every player has to make a decision based on what he thinks is best for him, and we support those decisions. In the first year, there's going to be some movement, there's going to be some attrition, and I know that, I understand that, and we're prepared for that. But that's not going to slow us down. We're going to do what we have to do to build our football team. And the purpose of recruiting is to improve your team, just like the purpose of the draft and free agency is to improve your team. And so, the players that have stayed with us, they believe in what we're doing, and they bought into our culture, and they feel like this is what they want. What we're doing in our program, what we're teaching, our philosophy, our culture, is something that resonates with the players that are here. And that's also what has attracted players to our program. And we have a tremendous coaching staff, tremendous support staff. It's a great university. We have a lot to sell, and we're in the building stages of something that we believe is going to be something special.
Our next question is from Jim Comparoni with Spartan Magazine.
Hey, Mel, great to see you today. The tight end position, Matt Dotson, not on the roster, heard some things, might have had a setback there. Your thoughts on the tight end position and what you have coming back there, and have you seen any development through the winter? I know you haven't gotten in pads yet or anything, but what do you see about the tight end position right now?
Yeah, we have a nice group of players that are going to compete for playing time. So we have the numbers, and we just have to develop. We have a a group that they're just range in, body types and, skill sets. And so we love to use our tight ends. We always have a tight end on the field or two. And so, we need to find guys that can block at the point of attack. We need to get better in that area. And then we also need guys that can, that can run and catch the ball and do a great job in that area. And hopefully you can develop a couple guys that can do it all. And so, I like our group. Coach Gilmore he's a true pro. He really knows what he's doing. He's a technician. He coaches after every single rep. He doesn't let anything slide. His attention to detail and his intensity, his focus, and his teaching is at a very, very, very high level. So the guys that we have, I believe that we're going to be able to get the best out of them. Whatever they have to give, we'll get it.
All right. Also at defensive end, Brandon Wright is a young man who I think has changed position. Is that an experiment, or does that look like it's gaining some traction there? I think he got some work on defense in the fall. What do you think about him at defensive end? And also one transfer you can talk about, I think, is on the rosters. Drew Jordan, your initial impressions of him there at the defensive end position. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Yeah, Brandon Wright. I would say more in the fall that was more of an experiment. Right now, he's a defensive end, and we're going to develop him there. He can rush, and we need edge pressure. We need edge rushers. We need to have speed off the edge. You can't really get pressure on the quarterback with four guys if you don't have great pocket push inside and speed off the edge. And if you can't get pressure with four guys, then you have to rely on pressures and blitzes to get home, which is you're not going to be a very good defense if you have to rely solely on pressures to get to the quarterback. So we feel like he can give us something that's much needed on the edge. Drew Jordan is fitting in well. I know I got a lot of background information on Drew during the process of of getting him here. One of his coaches was one of my quality control guys in Jacksonville, and so he was the right fit for us. He stepped in. He's mature. He's played a lot of football, played a lot of snaps. He started as a young player, as a freshman, and he's also going to be able to give us what we need as a rusher on the edge, but he's stout against the run as well. Good football player, and I believe he's going to emerge as a leader for us. I really like him. I'm glad he's here. He's a huge acquisition for us.
Hey, Mel, Xavier Henderson, is that a guy that can emerge as a leader type of player for you? What were your impressions with him in year one? And who do you see possibly emerging to be a tag team partner with him back there at safety?
Yeah, X is certainly has leadership ability, and he does lead, and his teammates see him as a leader. And I know that because we've surveyed the team. And we've done the research, and so he's a guy that needs to be a leader for us. He's played a lot of football, and I expect him to step up and assume a leadership role and continue to improve as a leader. And then Michael Dowles, he's also a very solid leader, leads by example, works hard, he cares. He's a good teammate. Those are two guys back there that I anticipate can be, just real kind of like glue guys and anchor type of guys where, exactly what you're going to get from them, and the teammates know what to expect from them, and they can lead and really help us at some point we need to have a player-led team at some point. And I hope that's sooner rather than later, because the player-led teams are usually the best teams.
I'm interested in a guy like Luke Campbell, also a guy that started 26 games in his career previously. Looks like he's back on the roster today. It's probably just a one step at a time situation for him, I would imagine. What have you learned about him? What can you say about him? And also Matt Allen had some tough situations last year, but he's back giving it a go. Those two guys, a couple of veterans, what do you see for them this spring? What are they trying to get done as they inch along?
Yeah, their guys are have had some injury issues and are just working to get back to full speed. But those two guys love football. I mean, they love the game, and they want to play, and they're here to play. And being on the team is important to them. Playing the game is important to them. Being a Spartan means a lot. Just their teammates. I mean, they just really want to be out there. They're here. They have purpose. They're here for a reason. And I have a lot of respect for both of those guys. And overcoming adversity, working through adversity. It's something that I have a high level of respect for. Injuries are part of the game. And your body is your business. And again, football. So anytime you see guys, battling back from injuries, working through adversity, things like that, and still have a fundamental love for the game and a desire to play and compete. I mean, what more could you ask for? And it's our job to do everything we can to help them. So we're working with them, and we're gonna together we'll get it done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
With March Madness, I'm just curious, is there any added pressure for you or your program after the early departure of the Spartans from the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, thanks, Leslie. Always good to see you. I don't feel any added pressure. I mean, pressure is it's an interesting word. How do you look at pressure? What really is pressure? To me, pressure is a privilege. Pressure, means that people care, but the amount of pressure that we put on ourselves internally is I don't even know if you can measure it, because we have an experienced coaching staff, we have motivated players, and we know what the expectations are. We know what we have our own standards. We have goals. We have intrinsic motivation, and I can't. I've never coached anywhere where the expectation was not to win every game. I mean, whether it was Michigan State when I was here in the '90s, late '90s, or Miami of Ohio, or LSU, or Ohio State, or Cleveland, Jacksonville, Chicago, Alabama, Georgia. I mean, you're expected to win, and so there's no external factor that's going to affect our process and our preparation, and there's no additional pressure. But whatever pressure we do have is a privilege, and not only do you accept the pressure and embrace it, but you also apply it.
Our next question is from Stephen Brooks with 24/7 Sports.
Hey, Mel, hope you're doing well. Wanted to ask you, how did, you talked about it earlier, just the stop and start nature of last year, where you guys had people learning over Zoom, and then you're in camp, and then you're not, and then you got to rush to start the season. Just the way that all went, how did that affect how you planned for this spring season? Because I would imagine just with the time constraints, there were some things that you guys just couldn't really get to, or couldn't go as deep on maybe last year as you wanted. How did that all affect just how you plan this spring ball and maybe get to some things that just time wouldn't allow for last year?
Yeah, we approached this spring like we would normally approach a spring, outside of a pandemic, knowing that we were going to have spring practice, that we were going to, have, all the time that we would normally have. And what happened, last spring or last season is, it's just really in the past. It's a factor. It's certainly a factor in our preparation, but what I never wanted to do is, and I never wanted to use COVID, and lack of spring practice, or only having 14 seniors, and anything you can think of. I didn't want to use that as an excuse for anything. Didn't even really want to bring it up. Didn't want to talk about it because nobody cares. At the end of the day, I'm sure there's some type of understanding, or being realistic or practical about the situation. But at the end of the day, nobody really cares about that. It's just really bottom line production, and so there's no sense even really talking about it. Just do what you need to do. We have a more normal situation now, and so we're full speed ahead, and planning to gain ground and raise the bar. It's really time to get after it and see what we have and build this football team. We have a lot of work to do. We're going to make the most of every day that we have.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question is from Matt Wenzel with M Live.
Hey Mel, we saw the schedule today with the spring game listed for the 24th of April. I was wondering, one, what the format is you guys are planning on, and two, is that something you think is going to be open to fans given the current restrictions and things like that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be open to the fans. I hope that it is. I love to get the fans in there, and I would like to have a game, to have a real spring game. It's going to depend on how many players we have available at that time. But it's you want to put the players in as many game-like situations as you can. In college you don't get preseason games like you do in the NFL, and so anytime you get a chance to scrimmage, or play a game, you want to take advantage of those opportunities, because everything that we do, we want to try to make it as game-like as possible, without wearing our guys out and banging them up and getting a lot of guys hurt. So certainly a spring game with fans, loud, buzz. I like to have the band out there, get the cheerleaders out there, get the mascot out there. Let's just get the whole thing going. Get the whole thing going if we can. But that's to be determined. How much of that we'll be able to do. We'll see.
And with the quarterback situation, you've obviously had some movement with Rocky leaving. You bring in Anthony, and Hamp joins as an early enrollee. I was wondering, from these 15 spring practices you clearly didn't get when trying to find a quarterback last year, what are you looking for in that position group between now and the end of spring practice?
We have an open competition, and I believe your quarterback has to be your number one competitor on your team. So first and foremost, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for leadership, and we're looking for someone who can execute, and run our offense efficiently and effectively. We have some talented players in that room, in that quarterback room, and Coach Johnson is an accomplished quarterbacks coach and play caller, and he's very detail oriented. He's an excellent teacher. He knows the position. He played the position, and we know what we need out of that room. And so our job is to get it out of the players that we do have, and I'm confident that we can get that done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Jason Lewis.
Hey Mel, I hope you're doing well. One of the guys that you added through the portal this offseason was Ben Van Sumeren. there's no question he's a weight room guy for sure. But what have you been most impressed with him, and what drew you to him, considering, last year was his first year really playing linebacker on the college level?
I don't know, Ben, am I allowed to talk about him?
Yeah, unfortunately, Jason, I can only talk about the people that are on the spring roster at this point in time. So
My apologies. I didn't realize he wasn't on the spring roster yet, so my bad.
that's okay. Our next question will go to Rainer Saban with the Detroit Free Press.
Hi, Mel. Obviously this is, I guess, the first time you're going into the second year of a program that you're leading. How important is the second year versus the first year? And can an argument be made that the second year is more important than the first year, because the first year is just, again, getting familiar with the roster and kind of undergoing the attrition that you've talked about in the past?
Yeah, that's a really good that's a good question, a really good perspective. The first year is very important because that's the first year is where you come in and where you shift the culture, and you basically lay it down and say this is what it's going to be, and you hammer that every single day, whether it's a culture of accountability or discipline, how we work, how we practice, how we meet, our language, how we talk to each other, our mindset, our mental disposition towards competing. That all happens in from the day that the day you walk in the door and you take the job and you hire the staff. I mean, you're building from that point. So the first year is important, and then you continue to build and grow, develop the culture, cement the culture, recruit, add players, and work through the attrition, and continue to work towards building a strong and winning football team. So the second year is you should see improvement, and that's what it's all about. You usually see quite a bit of improvement because the players understand what's expected, in the weight room, and from the coaches. There's standards, the expectation. The players know the coaches a lot better, and the coaches know the players, and so there's better connection, better understanding, and then more of what your returning players can do, which is important because you have to do what your players can do, and you have to be able to adapt your schemes on both sides of the ball and special teams to fit your players. And so I've been in situations where we've had tremendous success in year two, and so it's we'll see how it goes. But like right now, our focus is just on getting better, gaining ground, just being relentless in everything that we do, our effort, our intensity, our focus, just taking it, just one step at a time, just really focusing on the process, not so much on the outcome, but what we have to do on a daily basis to build and get to where we want to get to.
And how much do you anticipate seeing the roster change between now and the beginning of preseason camp? I mean, do you see, maybe more attrition after spring practice and roles get solidified a little bit more, and then also bringing in more players from elsewhere?
Yeah, there may be some more attrition. We'll have to see. Typically, after spring ball, there's usually some changes on the roster, and we're certainly going to look to add some more players from the portal. Recruiting, that's big. I mean, we're going to look to add guys all the way until we start fall camp. That's the name of the game, is get the best players that you can find, and teach them and motivate them and develop them, and I mean, you got to have you have to have good players to have a chance to compete and win games in this conference and beyond. And it's the Jimmies and the Joes. It's not the X's and the O's. It's the guys wearing the pants is what really matters.
Our next question is from Justin Rose with WXYZ in Detroit.
Mel, good to see you. Can you put on your forecaster hat for us and tell us what the headline will be after the spring game this year for Michigan State?
I can't do that. I wish I could, but I can't. I don't like to get into the hypotheticals or the crystal ball business, but if you have a specific question, I can give you a specific answer.
All right, I'll try it this way. What excites you most about this group of guys that you have working right now?
And they're hungry and they have a chip on their shoulder, just like our coaching staff. That excites me. They love football. They live football, and like I said from day one, I mean, if you like football, then you probably got a shot with me, and that's what I feel from this group. There's a different vibe in the building, in the locker room, in the weight room. There's a different type of energy. We're moving forward. We're gaining ground. There's better understanding. There's more buy-in. There's more trust, and the guys are returning. We've been through some things together, and that's important too. I mean, you really don't know what you have until it starts hitting the fan, and so we've been through it, and so we know what to expect out of each other, and so it's just I'm excited about that. I love building players. I love building teams. I love building a winning culture, and so that's what motivates me to sleep fast and hit the ground running every morning.
I don't know if we'll get a chance to talk to you tomorrow, but having some of the former players back on campus for pro day tomorrow, and of course your guys that are entering the draft this year. I mean, just how fun is that to see some of these guys come back and get to see them and have them try to chase their dreams even further?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've gotten a lot of texts from players, thanking us for allowing them to come back and work out for the scouts, and it's a benefit to the scouts as well. They want to see them. So most of the players have a dream of playing in the NFL, at least getting a shot. And so anything that we can do to help them reach their dreams, in terms of the NFL, I think we owe it to our players to do that. Certainly they put the work in here for us. We need to help them out as much as we can.
Thanks. And just to know, we probably will have Coach for a few minutes tomorrow for Pro Day too, if anybody has questions on those guys, so we can do that tomorrow. We have a couple more here to wrap up. We'll go to Graham Couch at Lansing State Journal. Graham?
Hey, Mel, I'm wondering how the vaccine changes things for you and your guys. Is everybody at their age group is now able to sign up and get vaccinated? Will that happen during spring practice? When will that happen? How does that change sort of protocols and all the things you guys have to go through?
I don't have the details at this moment about the timing of the vaccine and who's going to get it, when they're going to get it, and then what that will look like once that happens. But it's certainly going to be a game changer for us. But to what extent and how soon, I'm not really sure. We're testing 6 days a week right now, which allows us to practice, which allows us to have normal workouts and normal meetings and things like that. But I would encourage everyone that has the opportunity to get the vaccine to get it, and hopefully in doing so that we can we can continue to get closer and closer to a more normal existence.
Our next question will go to Audrey Dahlgren with WLNS.
Hi, Mel. Hope you're doing well today. With this being your 25th spring, I don't know if you could appease us a little bit and take some time to reflect, if you could do that. But what's the biggest thing that you've learned during your time in these 25 years of spring ball? And I guess, yeah, the biggest thing that you've learned and just how different it is from back then.
Yeah, well, if I want to reflect a little bit, I remember my first spring as a coach. I had a lot more hair, and I was a lot slimmer back then. That was 25 years. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone pretty fast. But what have I learned? I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I mean, you learn something new every day, and I believe in lifelong learning. Just always getting better. But I think what's most important is understanding that there's a process in building a team, in building a culture, and in sustaining a culture, and every time you change, you can change even one player. It's almost like you have a new team, and so just the fundamentals of your culture have to take hold. You have to have foundational foundational values and standards and expectations and things like that. And so what I've learned is to trust the process, explain the process, work the process, and don't get too far ahead of yourself. We have our out of season Spartan training program, STP. We have phase 1 was 4 weeks without the coaches, just the strength coaches. Phase 2 was 4 weeks with the strength coaches and position coaches added in, and then this is phase 3. It's spring ball. We go to phase 4, which would be summer. 5 would be preseason camp, and 6 would be the season. And so, I use the term out of season instead of off season, because when you look at it, there is no off season. It's a continuous process. It just never stops. It's like perpetual motion. And so, in every phase, has a history and a life of its own, just like every play has a history and a life of its own. Every day has a history and a life of its own. And we just take it step by step within that process. And as we trust that and we work it, and we always continue to adapt and adjust and get better, that's how you build, and that's how you build a program. That's how you sustain a winning program, is just having a process, trusting it, and sticking with it.
We have time for a couple more before Drew joins us here. We'll go back to Chris Solar, the Detroit Free Press.
Hey, Mel, I kind of wondered if you had any plans in terms of, normally this time of year you guys would bring in recruits to watch what you're doing. Do you have any plans to do things special or different to get them more or less in there virtually from a recruiting standpoint? And I guess from a dead period standpoint that has been, how do you guys just kind of wait this out? And do you want to start getting them in person again? I would imagine.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good question. We've been doing virtual visits and tours, since for a number of months now. I mean, we signed the 21 class. I mean, it was all virtual, and we're doing the same thing now. Every day, multiple virtual, visits. We have a process for that, and we get with the prospects and their parents or their guardian, their coach, and we get them on Zoom, and we lay out and lay out our program and give them the information that they need about every aspect of our program, whether it's the coaching, the X's and O's, the strength and conditioning, nutrition, academics, player engagement, athletic training, career development, all those things. We lay it out the best we can, virtually. We use graphics, we use video. We have a lot of conversation. We do a lot of listening. We answer a lot of questions, and we do that. And as soon as we're allowed to have players on campus, prospects on campus, we're going to have them in here in a major way. And we're in the process of setting up, visits, penciling in, official visit dates and things like that in anticipation of at some point, the dead period being lifted, and then we can actually get players here to see us face to face. I mean, we're recruiting guys and getting commitments, and we've signed players, and we haven't even had a chance to meet them face to face.
I was wondering, as kind of a follow to that, over the last year, what has changed about your job, your profession, that you feel can stick, and you know what I mean? Not so you had to adapt, but sometimes things come out of adaptations that are long-term changes. What do you think is going to stick?
I think the Zoom, that Zoom concept is going to stick quite a bit. I mean, like right now, I mean, we're all being tested, 6 days a week. But when we have staff meetings, but I don't gather everyone in one room like we used to do back in the day. We zoom it up. It's kind of funny too, because I'll say something, I can hear my voice echoing down the hall here. I mean, everybody's on the floor, and we're all in these separate rooms on a Zoom, and it's actually more efficient, I believe, and it's something you just kind of get used to. It's even when with just even with donors, and it's easier to set up a Zoom, send someone a Zoom link and hop on with them than it is to go and go visit them, or they come visit you, or set up a lunch or set up a dinner or something like that. I mean, it has its advantages, and so and we've really discussed, and we've talked about some of the things that we've learned in this COVID era, the things that we could take into the the new normal. And I believe that the Zoom is a big part of that. And the other thing that's very interesting, I believe, is that and I don't know if you feel the same way or if you experience this, but just the appreciation of in-person connection, contact, something that we've taken for granted, that I've taken for granted, just as normal. It's really, if you think about it, it's really special when you get a chance to just really connect with somebody, in person, face to face, and just communicate, relate. That's something that I don't think that I'll ever take that for granted again. And so every opportunity that we have to do that, whether it's with our players, with each other as a staff, with with recruits, and with any of our supporters, our fans, we have to treat that special. We have an opportunity to do that.
Thanks, Coach. Looks like we have a couple more. Drew's going to join us here any moment. Stephen Brooks from 24/7 Sports.
Thanks, man. Excuse me. Mel, I want to ask you, are there any players in linebacker and in the secondary that maybe haven't played a lot that you're interested in seeing this spring when you look at it? And the guys that left, whether it was NFL, graduation, transfer, those are two spots that got hit pretty heavy, just numbers wise. I'm curious who those next wave players are that you might be interested in this spring.
Yeah, well, I believe in developing the entire roster. We need everyone. Everyone that's on our roster is important, and our coaches know that that we're tasked with developing every guy, whether he's a walk-on or he's a scholarship player. And so, it's everything is wide open in terms of positions and roster spots and rep charts, depth charts. There's nothing set in stone. And so, the guys that are on our roster right now have an opportunity to step up and compete and show us what they can do. And we're going to work really, really hard to develop them and see who emerges in the spring. I mean, we've had one practice. We haven't put the pads on yet. But as the spring kind of unfolds and as we start to have more padded practices and things become even more intense, I believe that we'll start to see some separation in some guys, and we'll start to see some leaders emerge. In the linebacker position, in the secondary, at every position, we'll see growth. We'll see guys, taking steps forward, and we'll know a lot more about who can help us coming out of spring, and then we'll have the summer to continue to develop. So we have some good football players on this team, but they're all at different stages of development. What we have to do is we have to get as many guys ready to play winning football as we can between now and when we line up against Northwestern.
Real quickly, I did want to ask. You mentioned when do you put the full pads on, and how many sort of hitting days do you anticipate in this 15?
Yeah, we'll get into practice 3 or 4, and we'll put the pads on, and then we'll probably be in pads pretty much the rest of the spring. After that, except for maybe the practice before the spring game, we may just be in helmets there. But when we put the pads on, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're scrimmaging. We try to stay off the ground when we don't have the pads on, and when we do have the pads on, unless we are scrimmaging, because when you snap the ball, you got 22 guys on the ground, man. I mean, that's bad ball. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys get tangled up, and I mean, that's just not how you practice. And so, but when you do put the pads on, it does become more physical, and you do find out quite a bit, and there's nowhere to hide.